Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we are discussing just how the Emperor's ascension to godhood could have birthed a new age, as a war between the gods arises. Now, I don't think this needs a spoiler warning, but I'll throw one out there anyway. General spoiler warning to begin, as we are going to be discussing events from across the world of Warhammer 40k, so you have been warned. Now, gods within the 40k universe have long been a part of its background. Of course, the ruinous powers themselves feel integral to the very fabric of the lore as we know it. However, while being integral, they've always been limited to lurking in the background, the danger represented by their minions rather than the gods themselves. However, now it feels like that this is truly changing, that the gods themselves are stepping up and taking centre stage. And while this is truly evident from the events of Dark Imperium Godblight, where, spoiler warning for the few that haven't read it yet, the Emperor speaking through his returned son Rabute Guilliman essentially tells the Chaos God Nurgle himself that his time is up, and he is coming for them. And for all my years as a 40k fan, since I was a kid back in the 90s, never did I ever envisage we'd actually get to see the Emperor confronting a god of chaos. But here we are, and what a time to be alive it is. Second edition will always have a place in my heart, and one that maybe will never be eclipsed. But it's hard to argue we are not living in a golden age of lore now. We've had Primarch's return, we have teases of more coming, and now we have the Emperor himself awoken and about to go toe to toe with the ruinous powers. I don't think any of us ever dared dream that this would be possible. So just what could we see in this new age of the gods? Could we see more enter the light and stake their claim? Well, first and foremost, of course, we have the gods of chaos, as we said. Nurgle, Khorne, Tzeentch and Slaanesh. Now, these guys have never been in a stronger position since, well, ever. They may have been closer to victory during the heresy, but with the Eye of Terror erupted and the warp itself tearing across the galaxy, it's hard to argue they aren't even stronger now than ever before. Each of the gods is vying to claim territory within the material world. That's something they never dared dream was possible themselves, and some of them at least have been very successful. However, the biggest opposition to this, and a narrative I'm really hoping we get to see more of, is their great game. The gods of chaos are, well, chaotic to say the least. I know, no surprise, but it's this nature that makes them so interesting. They are just as likely to turn against each other as they are to team up to face the Emperor. And this has been seen most recently during Mortarian's invasion of Ultramar. Rather than taking the opportunity to aid their fellow Chaos God, Tzeentch instead took the opportunity to make an invasion on Nurgle's domain. While the ascension of the Emperor may understandably garner most of their attention, I don't think we can rule out more double-crossing and betrayals along the way. And that is in essence the greatest strength, and also the greatest weakness of the ruinous powers. They are as unpredictable to us as they are to each other. As for the Emperor of Mankind, however, it certainly seems that he has truly become a power and presence within the warp. something the Chaos Gods will be extremely wary about. Now, how much he'll be acting of his own accord, and how much in relation to Guilliman's moves within the material world, still remains to be seen. But I'll be honest again, the thought of the Emperor just cutting loose, fighting some kind of warp war against the gods of chaos, man, that is absolutely thrilling. I mean, we could well be talking about an army of faith-fueled saints against the legions of demons. It's honestly the stuff that dreams are made of. However, dreams aside, it certainly seems like the Chaos Gods are, if not scared, at least apprehensive about just how much a threat the Emperor has become. And as much as I'm looking forward to this fight, of Khorne standing up to face down the Emperor of Man, of Tzeentch plotting and scheming as best he can, the combat of wits against the Emperor, by far the best schemer the universe has ever seen. Let's just not make the mistake though, of thinking these are the only gods in this new age. While they may be the dominant forces, there are other major players I'm at least hoping we could see enter the playing field one day. The first of which absolutely has to be the awakening god of the Eldari, Ennead, the god of the dead. Eldar prophecy has long held that the rising of this new god will be the salvation of their race. And we have seen this storyline begin to take its first steps into the narrative. So surely it is only a matter of time before we see the first stirrings of this new god within the Immaterium. We know Slaanesh is dedicated to preventing it from happening, for obvious reasons. But how else may others interact should Ennead awaken? I could quite easily see one of the other Chaos Gods seeing the rise of Ennead as a good way of eradicating their despised brother, and far be it from Tzeentch to want to manipulate things to his own benefit. Should Ennead arise, I really believe Slaanesh needs to start watching his back. The Emperor, however, is an interesting one to try and figure out in this regard. On the surface, he has always been about the survival of mankind and nothing more, so you could understand him viewing Ennead as an enemy and nothing else. But much like Tzeentch, he's always been one to exploit an event to his own designs, manipulating the moment so it benefits him and mankind the most. If the Emperor can still retain enough of his former self, enough of his sanity, you could maybe see him trying to strike a barter with this new rising god, combining their forces to face the gods of chaos. I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's definitely something interesting to consider. The more likely scenario is, however, that the Emperor's mind is truly fractured, and while he may not see Ennead as big a threat as Chaos, he most likely wouldn't see it as a friend either, maybe the lesser of two evils. He could maybe leave Ennead on the sidelines and focus on Chaos. However, the other possibility is that he could wipe Ennead out while it's still weak, before it becomes a larger threat. The next two, however, are much more wildcard territory, and first up we have the Hive Mind itself. Now no, the Hive Mind isn't exactly a god, however it is alive within the warp, as seen in the novel Darkness in the Blood, and it is most definitely a calculating intelligence. While it may not be the powerhouse it can be, all it would take is the arrival of the next Hive fleet, and the Hive Mind suddenly becomes a monstrous threat. It won't be reasoned with. It won't be bartered with. It will simply come to devour them all. The Tyranids could just well be the biggest wildcard in this brewing war. The Emperor or the ruinous powers won't be able to scheme them. They won't be able to predict them. And they certainly won't be able to manipulate them. Even Tzeentch himself will have met his match with the hive mind. But again, this is all dependent on a new hive fleet emerging from the void, because at the moment, while still a dominant power within the Immaterium, the hive mind is pale in comparison to the ruinous powers. On to our next wild card, and it just has to be Gulk and Mulk, the twin gods of the greenskin race, and as far as I'm aware, already very present within the Immaterium. The only real question is, when it comes to Gulk and Mulk, is why haven't we seen more of them within the Immaterium already? I suppose the simple answer is, being the embodiment of the greenskin race, they're most likely too busy fighting each other. But with so much of the narrative coming from the Immaterium now, it really feels like we need to get some kind of development on these gods. Let us see just how these guys exist within the warp in relation to the other large powers. I don't know about anybody else, but I'd be fascinated to learn more about that. Maybe it would just be me, but I don't think so. I think you guys would be intrigued by that just as much. Gulk and Mulk are so similar in ways to the Tyranids, in that they're such primal forces of nature, and it's for this reason that I think they get so often overlooked. But don't discount the possibilities of these guys pulling out a surprise or two. Will they become a big part of the evolving storylines in the future? Most likely not, no. But it's just the possibility of it now. It just makes it so intriguing to think about. I mean, come on, which of us would not love to know how the gods of chaos view Gulk and Mulk? Is there ever any interaction between them within the Immaterium? Do the gods of chaos just try to keep them out of the way? Are the Orc gods, like I said, too busy focused on each other? Or is there a larger grand strategy in the works? I don't know, but that's something I really wish to find out. And just what would the Emperor make of Gulk and Mulk? Probably not much more than he made of the Orcs in real life. But it's another challenge he'll most definitely have to face. And really that sums up all the major players that we have to worry about. As for the Necrons and the Tau, well, they don't really have a warp presence as we know it. Undoubtedly the Silent King would class himself as a god among mortals, but unfortunately for him he isn't existing within the Immaterium. So this is a war he is fighting from the outside. With the gods of chaos, the Emperor, Iniad, the Hive Mind and Gulk and Mulk, the stage is truly set for some marvellous storytelling. And we haven't even mentioned the laughing god of the Eldar himself. I guess if there's wild cards out there, then he just has to be included. But one thing is for sure, with the new war in the warp truly being a possibility now, lines will most definitely have to be drawn. Just which side and which allegiances do you think your god will stand on? But as always guys, what do you think? With the Emperor's ascension, do you think we will see the emergence of the other possible gods? And if so, how do you think this new war in heaven, so to speak, is going to play out? Will there be alliances made, or is it every god for himself? As always guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.